Hey, what's going on, everybody? Cornbread Trucker here, coming to you from the Eagle truck stop here off of I-77, exit 81. What is this? This is a new, I can't even think of the name of the town here, but anyways, wanted to touch base on a couple things. So I did the video, it was yesterday, about cameras and AI, and I kind of want to do a part 2 to that. And then I also want to kind of discuss something that someone had asked, coming from a previous, they asked a question from a previous video, wanted to know what my thoughts was on turning down loads. So, excuse me, I just ate a little bit. Food's still kind of settling. But, you know, after I did that video, some new information came out. Now, how accurate it is, I really don't know. I got a feeling there is some truth to it. There is a message I had seen on, it's Facebook, but a driver was having a conversation with his fleet manager about it. And basically this person, well, I say fleet manager, maybe it wasn't even a fleet manager, but they had messaged back that that Prime's really not looking at inward facing cameras, that they're looking at more of an AI type system. Now, in my first video, I talked about AI in regards to implementing AI with autonomous vehicles, the autonomous truck, because, you know, I don't know a whole lot about the autonomous trucks as they are right now, but I would assume that some of the technology they use in that is what we deal with already in our trucks, and there's issues with that. Lane departure, you know, sometimes it gets triggered by a crack in the road or a glare off the road. Obviously construction sites where a stripe used to be, and then, you know, sometimes you got a vehicle in front of you that's slowing down, they're moving over to the exit ramp, and the brake assist will kick in, thinking that you may run into that individual. And so I assume some of that technology is also being used in the autonomous. However, I also assume that obviously a lot more cameras, a lot more sensors, things of that nature. But I think when you have AI involved in that, you get, it's able to kind of think like a person. And so where we know that a vehicle is moving off the ramp or over to the shoulder, and that we're okay, we don't necessarily need to back off at that time, the AI will also be able to make those determinations also. But going back to that now, so I was in that, I was saying, you know, we need to, you know, that the technology's coming, we need to accept it, embrace it, and own it. Well, I do. First, I'd like to say, I understand, I get the idea of this technology to help reduce and to save lives. Also for the company to be able to say, look, you know, you're not paying attention, you're distracted. We've seen it. You don't have to be a truck driver to know that cell phones are a distraction. And some people probably do a better job with it than others. I'm not wanting to get into that argument, but statistically, you know, a lot of accidents are caused because of a distracted driver on their cell phone. So I totally get that. I am a little uncomfortable though with the thought of AI. I had also seen a little later that somebody had posted, again on Facebook, a scenario. Well, I guess they used to be a fleet manager with a company that was using AI technology. They eventually switched. They felt like the AI technology was a little much, and then they were having the coach. Wasn't necessarily that the driver was getting in trouble per se with the company, but they were having the coach. And so this person decided they wanted to just go drive a truck and for a company that did not have this technology. And they were showing like this little laser box. He had some photos of what he's seen from his computer screen as a fleet manager. And it puts like a little laser box around the head of a driver. So if the driver put their head down, it would activate and of course start recording and things of that nature. Now, and it monitors how long your head is down, and I think even to the extent of what it is you're looking at. Now, the problem I have with that is, well, first off, I want to say, if it's gonna, every time you put your head down, every time I have to hit one of these switches that are below the steering column, that thing's gonna go off. So, you know, now generally, I don't have to drop my head very far or whatever, but it is a natural instinct to turn your head, like, put your head down and take a look at what you're doing. You know, I've never liked the idea of toggle switches being below the steering column. I prefer the old school trucks where, you know, your dash actually came out just a little bit further. They had different setups, but and your toggle switch was smaller. You know, it was just a little round toggle switch, and you had a little handle that came out, but they were small, and you had pretty much all your toggle switches up on your dash. And so it's a lot easier. You wasn't really putting your head down. You might have turned your head a little bit, but I prefer that. All these toggles we got in these trucks are just, you know, they're fat. They take up a lot of space. You know, I would prefer to have a lot of my gauges over there too. But this is what we got. But I kind of think that, you know, that can be, we're human beings, we're not robots. And I am concerned, and there's a lot we don't know about AI. I'd hate to have a system, and I can get this from a safety point, but I'd hate to have a system that not only is watching to see what I'm doing if I'm on my phone, or, you know, I've seen people concerned about smoking their cigarette or petting their dog, or you know, having to take, you can't have both hands. You can't drive a full shift and just keep both hands on the steering wheel. You're gonna have to move your hands. But one of the things I'm also concerned about, and I think it's kind of an invasion of privacy, I see the safety side of it, but is this system also going to measure your breath? Is it going to measure your heartbeat? Is it going to measure, you know, is it looking for strokes? Which, looking for a stroke or a heart attack, I mean, it's not a bad thing, but just what all is AI going to be able to do from being mounted in your truck? And then what are these parameters that it's going to be? Those are some concerns I do have. I do think that there's a point where AI might be more intrusive than a camera. I think in that a message that this, whether it's a fleet manager or somebody had commented back that they really wasn't looking at the cameras per se because of evasion of privacy, and yet they want to put AI in. Now, whether that's what they're doing, I don't know. I haven't heard exactly what system they're going with, and I want to be patient in that and try not to be too critical of anything. But I would like to know eventually, and I know we will. We'll find out what system they're going with and what the parameters are going to be. There's also concerns that you may have a set of parameters but the technology will allow them to do more. And what's to say that somebody doesn't use that technology? Or for instance, Prime may have a set of standards that they're okay with, but the system keeps track, and it maybe, and I'm just throwing this out there, maybe FMCA, DOT can keep this data, and this data could, maybe it could be points against you or whatnot. There's just a lot of unknowns, and so, and as human beings, it's in our nature to resist change or be fearful of change. And I'm trying to come at it at positive, and be patient with it and see what it is. But I felt like I needed to at least touch back on that subject, because I had thought, you know, I'm a simple mind. I had thought just inward-facing cameras, and AI to me is a different matter. There's a lot more to that. There's a lot of unknowns with that technology, where it's going. So, I mean, that throws some flags for me, but I'm going to continue to stay positive about this, because there's nothing I can do about it. If Prime's going to do it, and to be quite honest, you know, I don't know if this was just Prime's idea. You know, there's a lot going on in the industry, and you got some pretty big, some major players, Cargill, Tyson, you know, National Beef, just to name just a small handful of these big customers that have a lot of power, and you know, it wouldn't be unusual to start with big carriers and start to put pressure on them to start to move towards these technologies. You know, not saying that is what is going on, but that could have something to do with it. And so in order for bigger carriers to continue to get the kind of business that they would like from these carriers, and I suspect that if they can force it on the bigger carriers, eventually the smaller carriers will be forced into it also. And that's, you know, not to say that DOT, FMCA doesn't eventually come along and kind of enforce this technology on to us. So, you know, our world is changing, there's no doubt about it. I only got so many years left that I'm going to be doing this, and so I want to stay positive and just try and work through it, and see where it goes. I've got a truck on order, and you know, I don't want to lose money, so I'll just continue to be positive, work through it, and see where this goes. The other topic was, somebody had asked me what I thought about turning down loads. This individual, I don't want to name names, and I think it was a very legit question. So this individual's experience has been, when they turn down a load, that the load options they get after that are worse than the original load offer. And I have seen that myself when I've turned down loads, and then sometimes I see better loads, and sometimes I may have to turn down a couple loads and then I get a better load. So I guess I'll first state this. First, I know that conversations with my fleet manager and sitting at his desk and looking at his computer, you know, you kind of can see what his fleet is averaging. You know, he's got solo drivers and he's got team drivers, and you know, obviously averaging something different, but down the fleet he can kind of see where any one truck is at. And I think their first goal is to try and at least have everybody about the same average per week. Now, I know that I've had times where my average is above fleet, and I've had times when my average was below. I will say that sometimes when you're below, they can try and work with sales to try and get something that pays a little better or whatever, to get your revenue up to be pretty well in balance with the fleet. And that's a good thing, and that's a bad thing, especially right now. I would say, you know, right now I'm being very strategic in how I turn down loads, whether I take the load or not. You know, I have to look at things like, okay, you know, it has good gross, but really this is going to be a heavy load. It's going through mountains. You know, I'm going to burn more fuel. Am I going to the West Coast where fuel is even more expensive? You know, all those things kind of go in. Toll roads, you know, how much am I going to be looking at paying tolls, because that all eats into your profit. So also, and it's kind of, I have a more difficult time with this one now because there doesn't seem to be anything consistent. Before, when freight was good, there was areas that I know that if I go to this area, I got a really good chance of getting this load or this load, you know. And now those loads aren't necessarily there. Another thing that I'm seeing is wait time. It seems like every load I can get unloaded, get dispatched on a load, and then I have to set a day to pick up that load. And many times there's also a day before delivery. And so there's a lot of setting. And then you got to look at, again, you know, what's the possibility for reloads in that area? And even if there is reloads, are they generally good reloads? And generally, where are they going to take you? You know, right now I'm doing things kind of more strategic, where I may turn down loads till it gets me pointed in a direction that I think is going to be better for me at some point there with the reload, to get me into something with some higher revenue and things. It's not a perfect system. I am not sharp. I'm not dumb, but there are people that's really got this down to a science, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not one of those people, but I am trying to be strategic when I turn down loads. But I'm not afraid to turn down loads. Generally, they're going to try and get you something. Your fleet manager, again, you're in his fleet, his or her fleet, and you know, I think they're graded or maybe paid something, but they'll try and get you into that average. And again, that may be why you get the loads you get, is because, you know, again, if you know that the fleet, if you know what that fleet average is for the week, and you know that that fleet manager is going to get you into that, and that's what you're concerned about, you know, you could probably trust whatever they're sending you. Eventually, you know, I know a driver that, and he's very, you know, he's not afraid to say that he doesn't really turn down loads. I think there's some areas in the country that he will turn down. I don't think he's as picky right now, but he will turn down loads that goes to that area. But other than that, he feels it will all equal out. And, you know, he's probably right. The only downfall I have with that is, again, what kind of revenue, even though you got the revenue, what kind of profit are you bringing to the truck? And so, and when freight's really good, I'm not as concerned about that. I mean, I should be probably, but when freight was really good, you know, I pretty well go wherever they wanted me to go, unless there is just something I absolutely just did not want to do. But right now I am being strategic, and I will turn down more loads. So that's kind of my philosophy on it. Is it the best philosophy? Probably not. Like I said, I'm not a scientist on this. I also, you know, I try to look at things in perspective of Prime also. I drive for Prime. My trucks, of course, this is a lease through Prime. But I want Prime to be successful, because my belief is that Prime can be successful, that's going to help me be successful. And I know that's not in every case, but in general it is. If Prime is successful and they're getting they're getting good contracts because they can get this freight picked up and delivered and things like that, and they get a good revenue, then that kind of benefits me as a driver. So whenever I do try to keep in mind that, you know, Prime needs to get freight moved, and sometimes it's not the prettiest load, but they need it moved, you know, to keep that customer happy. And so I try to weigh that also. You know, I'll admit I'm kind of a team player, but again, I am being a little bit more strategic right now because the way the freight market is, and you know, I've got to make sure that I keep my business healthy, so that you know, I can not only take care of my truck, but take care of the biggest reason I'm out here is to take care of my family. You know, I like to get my bills paid, and I like to put money back, and that's tough to do right now. So I'm managing to get the bills paid, but you know, it's not easy, and not really getting any more money put back. And so like I said, it took me a little bit to kind of figure some things out, or what I think I've got figured out, but it's causing me to be a little bit more strategic in what I'm doing, and where I'll look at a load and where is it going. I don't just look at that, not even, you know, sometimes it might pay good per mile, but again, how much time are you setting on that load, and where is it taking you to, and where's the most likely places that getting a load from there will that take you to. So you know, there's just a lot of things you got to look at. So that's really about it. That's all I've got to say. Get ready to run in here, and I'm praying that they got some showers and they're not too expensive. But I am ready for a shower. If not, man, it's going to be another sponge bath. Get the wipes out, wipe down, get shaved, get the teeth brushed. You know, probably ready for a change of clothes. I prefer to get a shower before I put fresh clothes on, but I got to do something. So anyways, that's all I got. Stay safe, keep paying it forward. We'll talk to you later on.